Electric company's fining me hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't have it. Let me explain what happened. So as you know, yesterday I told you we are buying a camper today. Got the cash. He's gonna be home at 4 p.m. Hopefully he'll be able to bring it out today. He said he would. I really feel like he will either do it today or tomorrow. Carolyn's son is gonna be here tomorrow. I think tomorrow. If not, we'll put him in a hotel room. So we're trying to get this camper down here and get it set up as quickly as possible so he can start staying in it. Now, if you didn't get to see yesterday's video, go ahead and click the up next box at the end of this video. It'll take you to that video. So he's gonna be staying here for a while. He's already put in applications in the area to try to get a job. So yeah, he's working hard to get things straightened up. We're working hard to getting things straightened up also. So yesterday, we cleared up all this area here. Because what we're gonna do is have the camper parked right here. And my original thinking was the guy could bring his truck in between the electric pole and that tree right there, that little stump. It was a tree yesterday. So I mowed all this. This is all the blackberry bushes. Of course, that's kind of aggravating because we like to snack on them even though we're carnivores. This has been the first year we would actually be a full-blooded carnivore. But the chickens like these blackberries also. You can see last year's that we couldn't get to. So, but that's okay because these blackberries go all the way up this hill. So there's plenty of blackberries, but we had to knock some of them down. That way we didn't scratch his truck up. Well, I got to thinking that may not be the right thing to do. So as you know, we have to keep an easement for the electric company. And I, again, always have to explain this, is if this property didn't have this electric line, this property probably would have been another $5,000 or $6,000 in price. We got this for $4,200 with a running well or working well. But I got to keep an easement. Now I can park temporary things in the easement, but I haven't had to do that yet. With the chicken coop, we wanted to try to keep it on the flattest land possible. The chicken run, so we moved it down a little bit into the easement, but that's no big deal because all I had to do was cut 10, well, however many feet down into the wood line a little bit where the wood stack is. That gave the proper width. What was interesting is right here at the entrance of the easement, right here, they cut this, the electric company did. There was a building right here, probably an outhouse if I had to guess. We still have all the junk and remnants from it. I burned the building, but this is not wide enough for an easement. All that up there, up on the other side of this, was fenced up. So there's no way they could have said, well, the easement could be on either side. But that's not wide enough. So why would they pick an easement and not make it wide enough? They could clear more of the wood line out and have made a bigger easement. So I'm not really sure. I know what the instruction says is like 15 feet or 20 feet easement wide. I forget what it is. I'll have to go to the title company, I think, and find out. Originally, I thought parking it here would have been no big deal because they still have this easement here. But then I got looking up the hill. Of course, you're gonna see everybody's houses up there and the cat. But you can see the easement that they've carved out. There's the tree. And then over here. So I'm thinking this tree is the start of the easement, this little stump that I got, all the way to that tree. So I won't be able to park the camper here. So I decided we need to move the camper up the hill a little bit. Of course, I got this tree in the way. So yesterday, in order to move this up the hill, I've got to be able to get his truck up here. Well, you can see all the trash and the tree was in the way. Otherwise, he's gonna have to back it down, and I'm not comfortable with him backing it down. I said that in yesterday's video, so you can take a look at that. So yesterday, I decided that I was gonna cut this tree. Now, this tree had me very concerned. I've been thinking about cutting this tree since we actually moved up into the tiny house. The branches was actually touching not this big wire, but the actual electrical wire. It was actually touching. You may not be able to see that with the sun. It's my understanding that if the branch had crossed over to another wire, so both of them are touching, it would have caught fire. That's my understanding. You got, you know, positives and negatives and all that, whatever that is. And so I've seen videos where branches will fall on 2 of them, catch on fire. Now, a bird can land on one of the wires and doesn't get electrocuted because you're not grounded. I know that it's a big deal if you knock down these wires. So I've decided I was never going to touch this tree. I guess I could have called the electric company and they could have came out and dealt with it, but I don't really want them out here in case they say, oh, you know, that chicken coop's in the way and all kinds of stuff. Again, the title says that you can have temporary objects there. So like a camper, seems to me I should be able to park camper because it's temporary. I can move it. So just no permanent structures. But my truck is not going to be able to haul that camper. So my concern is they'll come down here, say you need to move your camper, and I wouldn't be able to move it. I don't know if they would move it or if I'd had to hire a tow truck to move it or, you know, whatever. So I decided, you know, I'm not going to risk it. That left me with no choice but to cut this tree. As dangerous as I felt like it was. If I'd have landed it over here, it would have been a nightmare. It would have never gotten out, and I didn't. I'm going to explain all this, but over here just did not seem like a very good option because my thinking was it was going to get hung up in that branch. I don't know if I'm actually pointing to the right branch according to your perspective, but if it had gotten hung up in that branch, it'd have been basically nearly vertical. And then what you got to do is you got to kind of cut it in wedges. And so eventually what will happen is it will be completely vertical and start to swing the other way right into the electrical line. So I didn't want to land it there. Well, kind of the same scenario over here, but my bigger concern was this tree here, the middle tree, there's 1, 2, 3 trees, would give way and the house would be in its path. So if it went past that branch, it'd fall right onto the house. Obviously, I can't land it in the direction of the electric line. So what I did is I made a conscious decision to land it in between these 2 trees. So I knew it was going to get jammed up in there, but that's okay. My thought is I could wedge it all the way up and it would either fall down into the wood pile or it would fall backwards, back towards me, over here. And so now the wire is safe, the electric wire. It's hard for me to get a clear perspective. So it would have landed to the right of the wiring if it had fallen backwards. In order to do this, the tree leaned really far towards that tree and the wiring. So it was kind of, it's hard to explain, but it was leaning in that direction. So to get it to land there, I had to make the tree twist, because what would have happened is if I'd have just cut it normally, where I wedged it on this side, cut it on the other side, it would have started to fall, but then it would have rolled into the power line, making this even more challenging. So here you'll see what I did, and it worked perfectly. So there's the power line right behind us. I wedged it a little bit more than 180 degrees, maybe 200 degrees. Basically 90 degrees from where I wanted it to land. I wanted it to land over here, but I wedged it way over here. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the tree to roll it in its natural state. So since the tree limb was leaning so far towards the wiring, I needed to get it to roll into the middle of the tree. So when you cut, you wedge it over here. So I want it to land this direction. Here, I'll use the wedge here. I want it to land that direction. So I cut it basically 90 degrees from where I wanted it to land. Then, as you're cutting your back slot, you leave a thickness over on this side. Make this side real thick, make this side real thin. And as it starts to break loose on its hinge, it will roll that direction. And it landed exactly where I wanted it, right in between those 2 trees. It was perfect. Well, now I got to get it out. And Carolyn came out and said, don't you have a come along? Which I'd forgotten I had a come along. My original plan was to wedge it all the way up until it fell backwards. So we took the come along and some of these truck straps. These can hold 800 pounds. And my come along. My come along is actually missing a piece. So I had to figure out how to make that work, but it worked okay with the hook here. And I hooked it up there to the bottom of the tree, and I started pulling it the opposite direction of where it landed. And what was amazing was it started to roll out of the tree. My thinking was I wanted to land it right on my wood pile. It scared me to death. And I just knew it was going to land in those wires. I just knew it. But I was already committed. There was not much I could do about it. As it started to roll out of the sycamore here, the one on the right, it just slid right down the sycamore. Didn't even knock over my wood pile. I was thinking I'm gonna have to restack the wood pile. Didn't even knock it over. Landed perfectly, didn't touch the wires. I mean, it was almost textbook. The only reason it wasn't textbook is because I had not calculated that the weight of that branch leaning out so far was going to roll it out of this sycamore tree. So I had Carolyn watching, and she kept, you know, you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. Well, so I'm using the come along. I can't really see what's happening. So I had her stand over here, way out of the way, and she could see what was happening, and she could predict before it happened that it was going to slide down that tree perfectly. So we cut it up in hunks, and it turned out I think it's a hickory, which I love hickory. I didn't cut it to size yet. I just wanted to get it cleaned up so we can start getting this camper down here, and then I can come back out here and cut him. So today, all I got to do now is cut that stump down so he can get over it. Get the camper parked, probably the tongue of the camper parked probably right where tree trunk is, maybe up here a little bit. Get this all cleaned up, and then today at 4 o'clock he should be able to bring it over. This wire is such a concern to me. It's always a concern. I don't know how much responsibility I have for the wiring. Well, I know I got to keep an easement, but beyond that, I don't know what I got to do. If in a windstorm a tree falls over, I don't know if I'm responsible to replace the wiring. I don't see why I would be. If they were really that worried about it, you would think they would cut all these trees down so it doesn't fall down into the wiring, but I suppose that's not their concern. But this sycamore, when it's got leaves on it, it nearly bends in half sometimes. I just think, my goodness, there's just how it's gonna go. But it never has. It's a sycamore. Sycamore is hard to break. They're not a very hard wood, but man, they just got a lot of spring to them. They're hard to split when you try to split them with a log splitter. I've done everything I can not to cut trees near these power lines, and here I was pretty much forced to. Now, I know people are gonna say, you should have had a professional come out and do it and all that stuff. I'm not an expert when it comes to cutting trees, but I do try to think about it a lot. Like I said, I've been thinking about this tree for 2 years and how to cut it, and I knew that I was gonna have to swing it or rotate it, get it to where it rotated. If you're going to cut trees, there's 2 videos I want you to watch. I want you to watch all the videos of people messing up, cutting up trees. And there's thousands of videos out there like that. People landing them in their house and cars. I saw this one video. He was gonna get his truck, and the wife was pulling the tree down, and the tree decided to go the other way and basically just flipped that truck backwards and roll it over. The truck didn't have a chance against that tree once it decided the tree was gonna go the other way. I've seen trucks get buried by the tree, you know, the tree fall down on their truck. Houses demolished, people hurt, people getting up in the trees with a ladder and trying to cut them down. And then you should watch videos of tree experts. And there's all kinds of them. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video, yesterday's video, where I was talking about the camper. So if I can inspire you to think it through so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.